Today, Iran said they hit a U.S. warship in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian state television called it a direct missile strike. 2 missiles, full impact, an American warship forced to retreat.
But the Pentagon said that did not happen. United States Central Command issued a flat denial. Quote, "No United States Navy ships have been struck."
One of them is lying. This is not a misunderstanding. These are 2 governments giving the world 2 completely incompatible stories about the same event. The data will tell you which one. The satellite tracks, the AIS records, the Lloyd's List intelligence reports, all of it points in one direction within minutes. But the bigger story is that they are both wrong. And by the end of this video, you will see exactly which lie each one is telling and why both lies are working at the same time. It is Tuesday morning in Washington, May 5th, 2026, day 67 of a war that almost no one outside of the Persian Gulf is paying close attention to anymore. 67 days ago, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated air war against Iran. The first strikes hit at 4 in the morning Tehran time. Iran's supreme leader was killed in the opening hours of that campaign. Iranian command and control collapsed within 48 hours. The strategic picture changed completely.
40 days ago, the United States imposed a naval blockade on every Iranian port. Bandar Abbas, Bandar Lenge, Chabahar, all sealed by 5th Fleet warships. 20 days ago, the blockade went comprehensive. Every barrel of Iranian crude was reclassified as contraband. Every tanker carrying it became a legal target.
And then, 2 days ago, on Sunday, May 3rd, President Trump announced something completely new, something that nobody in the region had been preparing for. Operation Project Freedom. 3 words, posted to Truth Social on a Sunday evening. Operations beginning Monday morning. The largest American naval move in the Gulf since the tanker war. 15,000 United States service members deployed. That is nearly the size of an entire Marine expeditionary force, sent in for what the Pentagon called a humanitarian operation. More than 100 aircraft, both land-based and ship-based. Carrier wings, refueling tankers, surveillance platforms, electronic warfare aircraft, the full footprint. Multiple guided missile destroyers from the 5th Fleet, multi-domain unmanned platforms, standoff weapons, the kind of force you assemble when you are preparing for something to escalate. The stated mission is to escort approximately 20,000 seafarers stranded inside the Persian Gulf back through the Strait of Hormuz to international waters and home. The Pentagon called it humanitarian. CENTCOM called it humanitarian. Trump called it humanitarian. The word humanitarian appeared 4 times in the 72nd public statement. Iran called it the next phase of the war. Tehran did not even pretend to read it any other way. The framing fight started inside the same hour as the announcement. On Monday, May 4th, the Iranian military issued a formal public warning. The wording was cleared at the highest level of the new Iranian command structure. Any vessel transiting the Strait of Hormuz must coordinate with the Iranian Navy in advance. No exceptions. No grandfather clause. No prior agreements respected. Any United States Navy vessel attempting to enter the strait without that coordination would be engaged. That was not a threat. The Iranian military presented it as a maritime rule. And then, earlier today, Iran's state media made the announcement that started the headline cycle. Iranian forces had hit a United States warship inside the strait. The claim was specific in a way Iranian state media usually is not. 2 missiles, direct impact. The American warship had been forced to retreat from the Strait of Hormuz. The claim went out on Iranian state television within minutes of the actual engagement and was reposted across Iranian, Russian, and Chinese state outlets within the hour. Within an hour of the Iranian claim, United States Central Command issued the denial. Not a hedge, not a clarification, a direct, on-the-record contradiction. No United States Navy ships have been struck. That sentence was the whole CENTCOM communications team's first job of the day. Admiral Brad Cooper, the Central Command commander, added one detail that nobody in Tehran wanted to hear. He gave it on camera on the same morning. "We sank 6 small Iranian vessels in the Strait of Hormuz." 6. That number landed inside the news cycle and stuck there. So we have 2 stories now in front of us, broadcast within an hour of each other, on the morning of May 5, 2026. Iran's story. Iranian forces hit a United States warship in the Strait of Hormuz with 2 missiles and forced the American vessel to retreat from Iranian waters. The Pentagon story. No United States ship was hit. No retreat occurred. 6 small Iranian vessels were sunk in a separate engagement during the same window. These are not partial truths describing different parts of an event. These are mutually exclusive claims about the same event. Both cannot be correct. One of them is lying. The question is which one, and the second question is what each one is lying for. The data answers the first question fast. Here is what the data shows, layer by layer, starting with the most basic question. Where were the United States warships during the contested window? AIS satellite tracking from Lloyd's List Intelligence places 2 United States Navy guided missile destroyers in the Arabian Gulf as of 0600 GMT today. Both transited the Strait of Hormuz overnight under Project Freedom escort posture. Both arrived in the Gulf intact. Both are currently operational and broadcasting normal AIS signatures. Neither one shows any damage profile consistent with a missile strike. No emergency repair posture. No reduced mobility. No emergency withdrawal vector. Nothing in the data matches the Iranian claim. What about the 6 Iranian vessels that the Pentagon said it sank? Did that part actually happen? Because if it did, that is also a significant escalation. Maritime domain awareness data confirms 6 small craft signatures lost from radar inside the strait between 0400 and 0600 GMT this morning. The signatures were consistent with Iranian Revolutionary Guard fast attack boats. They were not warships. They were small swarming craft of the type Iran has used in the strait for 30 years. So the Pentagon told the truth on the narrow technical claim it actually made. No United States ship was struck. 6 Iranian craft were sunk. The technical claim is supported by the AIS and radar data. Iran lied about hitting the warship. The strike on the data did not occur. The retreat on the data did not occur. Iran did not engage the United States Navy successfully today. But that is exactly where the bigger problem starts. Because if you stop here, you have answered the small question. The large question is the one neither side wants you asking. Because the Pentagon also said something else today. They said Project Freedom is humanitarian. The word was used in the original Sunday announcement and on every press release since. That is the second lie. And it is a much more important lie than the question of whether or not a missile hit a destroyer in the early hours of May 5th. Look at the operational footprint. 15,000 service members, more than 100 aircraft, multiple guided missile destroyers, carrier strike capability, multi-domain unmanned systems. For comparison, the actual humanitarian evacuation of 2,000 civilians from Sudan in 2023 required approximately 1,500 United States personnel and a fraction of the aircraft. Project Freedom is roughly 10 times that scale for a humanitarian mission of comparable size, 20,000 seafarers on the high end. The math does not match the framing. That is not what humanitarian operations look like. That is what a major regional naval campaign looks like, packaged with a humanitarian label that is too small for the box. What Project Freedom actually is, structurally, is the United States declaring de facto control over the Strait of Hormuz, dressed in the language of seafarer rescue, forcing Iran to make a clean choice between 2 terrible options. Stand down and accept that the United States Navy now controls the choke point, or attack and trigger the next phase of the war. The humanitarian framing is the political cover. That cover is necessary because no American audience would support a unilateral seizure of the Strait of Hormuz framed in plain language. Now consider Iran's lie. Iran did not actually hit a United States warship today. The data is unambiguous. The destroyers are intact. The strike was fabricated. But the Iranian state media claim, broadcast within minutes of the actual engagement, was not a careless statement. Iranian state media does not run claims about American warships off the cuff. It was strategic communication, cleared at the most senior level of the new Iranian leadership, and aimed at 3 audiences in 3 different time zones. Each of those audiences hears the strike claim differently, and each one of them is the point. Iran did not need the strike to be true. Iran needed all three audiences to hear the claim.
Audience 1 is domestic Iranian morale. 67 days into a war in which Iran has lost its supreme leader, its naval infrastructure, and the majority of its oil revenue, claiming a hit on an American warship is a domestic political necessity.
Audience 2 is the regional resistance axis, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Iraqi Shia militias. By framing today's clash as Iran successfully resisting American aggression, Tehran signals that the axis remains active. Audience 3 is the global energy market. The claim is intentionally calibrated to spike Brent crude in the morning Asia Open, when Singapore traders are setting prices for the day.
And it worked. Brent crude moved up $2 in the first hour after the Iranian state media claim hit the wires. That is a multi-billion-dollar market reaction to a fabricated incident.
Iran did not need the strike to be real. Iran needed the headline to be real. The headline was real. The headline did its job before the Pentagon's denial caught up with it. Now we can finally answer the question we started this video with. Which side is lying? The honest answer is that both of them are lying, and the lies are doing different work. Iran lied about hitting a warship in order to manipulate domestic morale, regional alignment, and the morning crude price. The lie was tactical, short shelf life, and it worked. The Pentagon told the narrow technical truth about today's clash, but lied about what Project Freedom actually is. That lie is strategic, longer-lived, and far harder to sustain. Both sides are using the same single event in the Strait of Hormuz to manipulate completely different audiences toward completely different outcomes. Both sides are wrong, just in different ways, for different reasons, on different timelines. Iran's lie expires today. The Pentagon's lie expires inside 72 hours. Here is what is actually happening in the Persian Gulf at this moment, while Iran's state media replay the strike loop and the Pentagon repeats its denial. 2 United States-flagged merchant vessels have already transited the Strait of Hormuz under Project Freedom escort. They cleared the choke point overnight and reached open waters safely. 600 commercial vessels of more than 10,000 deadweight tons remain trapped in the Persian Gulf, including 325 oil tankers carrying Iranian, Saudi, Iraqi, and Kuwaiti crude. Of those 325 tankers, 81 are part of the Iranian shadow fleet, operating under fake flags with disabled transponders, moving sanctioned crude through Hormuz. 43 of those tankers are under direct international sanctions from the United States, the European Union, or both. They have been sanctioned individually with the vessel name in the United States Treasury OFAC ledger. Project Freedom intentionally does not specify which of those vessels qualify for escort. The original Sunday announcement contained no eligibility list. The Monday and Tuesday clarifications contained no eligibility list either. That is the strategic ambiguity. Strategic ambiguity is not an accident. Strategic ambiguity is what an operation looks like when you are buying time to make a decision you do not yet want to declare publicly. Here is what breaks next. Here is the actual point of inflection that this entire mispricing has been building toward, and it is closer than the headlines suggest. Within 72 hours, the Pentagon will need to decide whether Project Freedom escort applies to sanctioned vessels operating under flags of convenience. If the answer is yes, the United States is effectively neutralizing its own sanctions regime by escorting the same tankers it had previously declared subject to interception and seizure. If the answer is no, then Project Freedom's humanitarian framing collapses publicly, because 2/3 of the trapped seafarers are crewing exactly those sanctioned vessels. There is no clean version of this decision. There is no third path. Either the sanctions regime gets gutted in front of the cameras, or the humanitarian story gets gutted in front of the cameras. And Iran knows this. Tehran's strategic planners are reading the same Lloyd's List intelligence reports. They are looking at the same 81 Shadow Fleet vessels and the same 43 sanctioned tankers. The Iranian leadership is not going to engage Project Freedom directly with naval forces. The military balance does not favor that, and Tehran is not committing what is left of the Iranian fleet to a losing fight. Instead, Iran is going to wait for the United States to be forced into a public decision on the sanctioned vessel question, and then react to whichever answer Washington picks. If the United States escorts sanctioned tankers, Iran calls Washington a hypocrite at the United Nations Security Council within hours of the first escorted transit clearing the strait. If the United States refuses to escort them, Iran lets the seafarer humanitarian crisis play out in real time on every front page in the world, dated and counted by the day.
So when you started this video, and we told you that Iran said they hit a United States warship today, and the Pentagon said that did not happen, we told you both sides were lying.
Iran lied about a strike that never happened in order to drive the morning oil markets and rally what is left of the regional resistance axis around the idea of Iranian capability. The Pentagon lied about the actual nature of Project Freedom in order to package the most significant unilateral American naval move in the Persian Gulf in a generation as a humanitarian one. Both lies are working at the same time. Iran's lie is moving the morning oil price. The Pentagon's lie is buying domestic political space for an operation Americans would not have approved if it were named honestly.
And inside the next 72 hours, one of those two governments is going to be forced to abandon its lie publicly. The choice they make will set the rules for the next phase of this war.
Whichever one folds first will define which side actually controls the Strait of Hormuz at the end of this campaign. That is the answer that is being mispriced today, on every desk, in every market. Mispriced Geopolitics.